I'm Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr., and this is how to get your money right. Stephen Hightower, the founder and CEO of Hightower Petroleum. Welcome to How to Get Your Money Right.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Your success in the petroleum industry is not only noteworthy, it's historic. Where were you born? What's your social location?
Well, I was born and raised in Middletown, Ohio, which is between Dayton and Cincinnati. And my father was on his way to Detroit. My grandfather had gotten him a job with Chrysler. And he was bringing my aunt up from Mississippi and dropped her off in Middletown. And that was on a Sunday. Her husband took him to Armco, and next day he got a job. So we never made it to Detroit.
Okay.
So
you're the CEO and founder of Hightower Petroleum.
that's correct.
What is the mission of Hightower Petroleum?
Well, Hightower Petroleum Company has been founded as a downstream wholesale distributor for gasoline and diesel fuel to commercial fleets. And we've made our name by delivering to commercial fleet companies like AT&T, Amazon, UPS, all of the GM plants. We do a lot with the utilities. So we're in every state in the United States doing business, 99.9% in the private sector.
First of all, that's a lot of fuel.
It's a lot of fuel, but in the midst of things, it's just a small teacup.
How did you first get involved in the petroleum industry, particularly in the distribution?
Well, actually, there was an opportunity that legislators in the state of Ohio, gentlemen like C.J. McGlynn and Senator Bowen in the state worked to actually have a program that would help get minority companies involved with different types of industries that we were at zero level of participation. And that was House Bill 584. And through House Bill 584, they were able to begin to make opportunities available for
this House bill is Ohio bill or
Ohio House bill. Yeah, it's a state bill, and they set aside fuel one day, and the contract had been held by BP for about 32 years, and BP was not in the benevolent sense of helping other minority companies or any company get started, and so therefore there's always a number two. And I found the number two guy that was willing to sell me fuel. I was very transactional, having been in the janitorial business prior to that, then starting an industrial supply business. I was selling things to Ford Motor Company, all types of different gadget parts and different things of that nature. But when they actually set aside the petroleum, there was a guy by the name of Don Likens who had Likens Oil. He quoted me and I quoted the state. My first contract was the entire state of Ohio. Now, I was very transactional because, again, my parents we had grown up in the janitorial business, so I kind of knew verbally how to do business. That was just a different language. The business part was the same, and I knew what we had to do in terms of quoting, getting the invoices in right, and paying your bills. And if you could do that, you can add on top of that multiple languages and different types of industries, but the business got to be sound up underneath.
So you start out in a small town in Ohio.
Correct.
Then you're across the whole state. Now you're across the whole nation.
Well, actually, I'm global, beyond the United States, but I am
now you're global.
I am in every state in the U.S. today.
That's a tremendous ascension. That's a tremendous evolution. Most people don't perceive that there are opportunities in the gas and oil industry in America, particularly if you come from communities of color. You defy history because you're not only there, but you're doing well there. Talk to us about the opportunities today in the oil industry and the petroleum industry.
Well, the oil and gas industry is a very different type of industry because it's multi-layered, and it goes from the upstream to the downstream. And when we talk about upstream, we're talking about crude oil coming out of the ground and all those things, the drilling and the shipping and everything it takes to get that crude oil to a refinery. And a refinery, basically crude oil only has one place to go, and that's to a refinery. But all that activity is upstream. Midstream assets would be the refinery, the pipeline, the tanks, and everything to actually make it into a refined product. That then goes up a pipeline to several distribution centers throughout the country. We then pick it up from those distribution centers and then send it to our customers via truck. Now, that is all over the country in different parts. So we buy what we consider all racks, which are all terminals throughout the whole United States. That's taken 44 years to be able to say that we can go into every rack, regardless whether it's Washington State, in California, Wyoming, Ohio, Illinois. We pull from all of those terminals.
44 years.
It took 44 years. And actually, while we're 44 years today, I would say it was about 37, 38 years before we actually start getting the level of respect, even in that sector of the business, that was due. And, at some point in time, when you start making people money, then you start getting recognition. And, again, for us to be able to supply to all of those organizations meant that we had to buy. But then what we had to buy was making them money. So, because we had to buy from the suppliers or the manufacturers, the refineries. So it became a symbiotic relationship that everybody had to win-win. And at some point in time, you start getting credit for what you do.
What is giving you your sense of perseverance, your sense of not allowing whatever obstacles were put in your place to hold you back?
Well, I'm a competitor. I played football, I played baseball in high school, and I wrestled. I like to win. And it doesn't matter whether I'm playing sports or if I'm playing business. I play to win. And there's one thing about the business part of it is that you can't invent an industry. The industry is already made. You got to learn the industry, learn it, to play it better than your competitor. And then once you understand it and you can outplay your competitors, then you began to grow your business. And what many African Americans not just my field, they don't see themselves going beyond their geographic, their cities, or maybe their counties, or maybe their states. But I look at the whole world as being part of my playground to work in. And any time that you can do business and do business right, somebody in this world will do business with you. So you got to go beyond your comfort zone. And I've always gone beyond Middletown, Ohio, to Dayton and then Cincinnati, then Columbus. And then I go to the next state. And then I've always kept a world map in front of me. And from the time that I started, on the wall in my office, the entire wall is the world. And so when I first pictured, I want to have the entire country. And today I have the entire United States. But that wasn't enough in my own mind, and I kept it in front of me. I wanted the world. And today I've got an office in Rome, Italy. I've got an office in Nigeria. I've got an office in South Africa, and beginning to expand beyond that in the Caribbean as well. And it's just a matter of you saying to yourself that I want to be there. I want to have that. And not say why I can't do it. And when you get up and you go and you be present, and showing up is 90% of it, and you have the right type of conversation, you know how to get the right products to the right place via a supply chain or via doing what you can do yourself, you could be successful. And I don't think that enough of us as African Americans see ourselves as being able to take on the whole world. Like you, you're not stuck here in Washington, D.C. You're at the whole world. Okay, so because you thought you could, and you took the steps to go out and do it. And that's where we fail too many times, to not think that we can.
Right.
And not just think that we can, then to go out there and try. And that's all I've ever done, is continue to try.
You know, it's this Bible verse that says, a people without a vision perish.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you had a vision. You still have a vision.
Absolutely.
It's expanding.
It's expanding.
You know, Hightower Petroleum all over the world.
That's right.
Part of the syndrome that we are facing now in America is this settling for mediocrity, settling for just, I'm going to do something just to get by. I'm going to do something just to make sure I'm covered for this month or this year, rather than having the zeal to get more in a legal way.
I would like to say a lot of that had to do with your environment and your parents and that ecosystem that you have visibility of as you're growing up. And my father worked around the clock at Armco Steel, basically almost 20 hours a day, 24
Around the
hours a
clock?
day. Around the clock. Okay?
That was one shift?
No, there's 3 shifts. Okay. But when he got off his one shift, then he had to go to work for himself. So then he continued to work and then get maybe a couple hours worth of sleep, and then he goes back in again. But I saw that kind of work ethic all my life. And even when we had emergencies with the janitorial business, so maybe a restaurant flooded, we had to get out of bed in the middle of the night, get the water sucked up, put the fans out such that they could open at 6 o'clock. I was accustomed to that as a child, okay, understanding how to work and having that work ethic. And that is really at the core of it, is what you've been able to see that's possible. And when I see people that start in their garage or in a bathtub and they become billionaires, I figure I can do that too. And the only difference in someone saying that I'm only going to continue to work out of my bathtub and someone who's saying that I'm going to take on the world is that vision and desire and that belief in themselves that it can be done. And so as I look at what's in front of me in this industry as petroleum, everything that I see has been done from one. It started with one, and it's gone from there. Why can't I be that one? And so I didn't go into the whole country overnight. That took 25, 30 years to get to that point. I'm not going into Nigeria and in Europe and selling crude oil just at the flick of my fingers. That's take 3 to 4 years just to get lined up with the right financial wherewithal and the relationships to be built in order to enter that market. And so what we've done for the last 44 years is not what we're going to continue to do that as a baseline. But now when we start talking about the upstream and we start talking about crude oil and LNG, we've got a whole new partners and we've got a whole nother vision of the rest of the world that we're attacking that actually have arms open for somebody who really knows how to do business properly. Because people actually want U.S. crude oil.
Yes.
And we have the ability through a lot of hard sweat and tears and relationship building, even going out of the country to get the money to do it. All right. That's what you have to do. And that means that you just have to make up your mind that I'm going to accomplish my goal. I can't be stopped.
Well, you certainly picked the right industry. Energy today determines the public policy of the nation. Because you have been very successful economically, you probably not only got rich yourself, you made a lot of other people rich. So tell us, how is Stephen Hightower embraced by the rest of corporate America?
Well, when I first started in the petroleum business, I, again, started with that one contract with the state of Ohio. Then the Casino River boats start coming up from Indiana, and I start filling up Casino River boats in Ohio and Indiana along the river. Then I start doing highway contracts on people at heavy highway on the roads. And along the way, they were just opportunities and being opportunistic. But then I joined this one organization. It's called SIGMA, the Society of Independent Gasoline Marketers. Okay, that's what wholesalers
Is that
do.
a national group?
That's the National Association. And what I tell everybody, you've got to find your association in whatever industry you're in. If you're in the media, there's a association where they all meet, and they meet 3 or 4 times a year. That's what I did. Once I got involved, I was told, you need to be here 4 times a year when our doors open. And I did that. And what that began to do is begin to let them get to know me, all right? And as they began to get to know me, and that relationship began to build, I began to kind of go into the, I guess, the chairs of being in leadership. And so that allowed us to begin to travel. So I went to Brazil, we went to Cuba, we went to Soviet Georgia, we've gone to all over the world with that group of people in the industry. And after a while, maybe 10 or 15 years later, I was not just that guy over there, I was Steve. And then those were the individuals that also helped me by carrying product that I had in other regions to those customers that were in other cities. So even though I was still called names, okay, was told that I would be a has-been, my CFO at the time, I remember a guy calling him a monkey over the phone. But you know what I tell young brothers and sisters is that people want to poke you, and they want to make you get a certain reaction out of you. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to give them that reaction. But what happens then is you cut yourself off from being able to do more. So you got to be able to balance and manage that, that conversation in a way that you still can play tomorrow. And so it was just working those associations, and then from one to another, to whereas I've actually got to be the only African American in all of the associations, upstream, midstream, and downstream, that's ever actually been on these boards. My son now is coming up in Sigma. He's now on the board, and I've gone on to bigger boards in the industry. But they got to get to know you. And and so many times, who would go to Soviet Georgia with these guys? Who would go to Turkey? Who would go to, Cuba? But not only was it an experience, the most experience was the relationship building. And that's how I slowly integrated into the industry. And then when I would go to different parts of the country, the few people that was a part of our local would always have to come up and say, he's all right. He's good, he's legitimate. I had to be legitimized by my competitors, by others that I made that travel with to get me to the next level. And there's one thing that we always have to learn about where we are and who we are. They're looking for something bad. They're looking for a way to eliminate you. And the only way they can eliminate you is if your reputation goes sour. And your reputation can be knocked off in 15 seconds. You don't just don't pay somebody, okay, or cuss somebody out, all right, or just say I'm going to do it my way and not your way. Just not play the game the way the games need to be played. And that's where we have to. If we learn how to do that, then we can outplay them. Okay, Tiger he didn't reinvent golf. Right. He just learned the game and then outplayed them. Okay, Serena didn't invent tennis. They learned the game and they outplayed them. I didn't invent this game of petroleum. I just outplayed my competitors to be where I'm at right now.
Relationship building.
Relationships.
It's good for business.
It's the only way.
Man, we need you to be teaching a course at all the business schools in America. Yeah. I know you've written a book that's in circulation. Tell us about your book.
Well, Fueling from Zero to a Billion is the name of my book. And what I do with that is to tell where I come from. Okay. And being in a janitorial business, to some people that blows their mind, and they want to minimize who you are because you were in the janitorial business, which is a $32 billion industry, all right? And that's where my skill sets, that's where I learned business, that's where I learned how to sell, is in that particular business. That's where I learned customer service. I just took it to another level and started bringing in, and what I learned from that janitorial industry, all right, I was able to take and put another industry on top of it and then allow it to grow. What really changed our business was technology. And I had a e-commerce solution that I adopted. I was the third company to adopt this e-marketplace software. And so I was prepared when they were putting that together to step into my vertical of fuel. Now, I was still a baby, okay? I was still a very, very small, but I got into that particular category, okay, in that particular vertical, and I owned it because I had the technology to hook into it. So Cincinnati Gas and Electric, that turned to Synergy, which was Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, they were a part of that particular organization, Pantelis. And the lady who was a part of Synergy left and went with Pantelis, and I became that vertical for oil and gas. So ExxonMobil did a deal with me because I had to be national, and they gave me their suppliers in all their regions, all right? And then there was another company that gave me worldwide or nationwide fuel. And it was through Pantelis that then I got all the Synergy, okay, which is, I was doing one tank per month for about 4 years. And that was Synergy's way of saying they are doing business with the minority company. Now I've got all of their business. And what they said to me, don't tell nobody, just perform, just in case I screwed up, okay? They didn't want people to know why did they leave BP and go with me. So just do the work. And we just did the work. And to this day, we still, when Synergy and Duke, they came together. And Synergy's CEO became the CEO of New Duke. And they say, Steve, you're coming with us. And in 1 month, we had all of the Carolinas with Duke. To this day, we do all of Duke's fuel, all of their generation fuel, as well as all their fleet fuels.
That's great.
Yeah, and so not making these guys look bad when they give you a chance is everything, all right? And we've done that over and over again. And in this industry about fuel is, if I get GM today, I took it from somebody else. And that somebody else happened to be BP. And I do Honda and I do Nissan. I took it from somebody else, okay? Those somebody else's was also BP. And it's because I learned the game, I learned how to buy. I learned how to scale and deliver all over the country without having to have all of those trucks under my own belt, all right? And I learned how to finance large sums of money, large receivables, through a element called a lockbox. The bank wasn't going to give me money, okay, to be in the petroleum industry. I got up to $235 million before I got my first bank loan from a commercial bank. And how did I fund myself through that? Was through lockboxes. And I had lockboxes with different suppliers, all right, which the bank did not have any liability, okay?
So having
and
a
that's how I
lockbox
grew.
just cut out the middleman.
Having a lockbox allowed me to, it basically cut the bank out, but the bank had instructions to send my suppliers money to them. So when, let's say AT&T paid us into a lockbox, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, well, what was belonged to my supplier, the bank had instructions to send that to that supplier, and I got mine. And that way, the bank did not give me the credit. All they were doing was passing the money through. The supplier was okay because he knew he was going to get his money from the bank. So that's that was a way.
Who is the book written for? Is it general public or is it written for entrepreneurs? Who's the target audience?
The target audience is anybody who wants to be in business or thought about being in business. It comes from a African American, so I talk to African Americans, but the business is the same. It's not a white way of doing business or a black way of doing the business. It's only one way of doing the business. And so that's what I teach is what is the right way of doing business, period. Petroleum is just a language. It could be medical supplies. It could be, waste management. But the business, the accounting, the marketing, the management, the people is doing the customer service, all of that is basic. And then you could put different things on top of that. So that's why I've been in many different businesses over my life, but the business is the same. The core business is the same. And then you just have to learn the language in which what you're, doing.
Stephen Hightower, the founder and CEO of Hightower Petroleum. Thank you for being on How to Get Your Money Right.
Thank you for the opportunity.